Hey, you like espionage, dramedy slash satires about the Vietnam War? Except this time, instead of the perspective of the Americans, it's from the perspective of a communist spy from northern Vietnam. Yeah, I think you'll like the Sympathizer. It's real good. It's got some stylish filmmaking, the kind of filmmaking that would make Tarantino drool all over his shirt. It's based on Pulitzer Prize winning novelist Viet Thanh Nguyen. His book, 3 episodes. 3 episodes have been out, and those are the 3 episodes directed by Park Chan-wook, amazing, renowned director of films like Old Boy and The Handmaiden, Decision to Leave. I mean, if you like Park Chan-wook stuff, you're gonna like this. It's pretty much a Park Chan-wook movie turned into a series. Though I do wonder if it's going to keep up the pace in future episodes, you know. Now, Robert Downey Jr. here plays the white man, representative of the power of the white man during this time and today, I guess, too. Basically representing the statesman, the CI man, the Hollywood guy even. So it might take you a bit to get on this show's wavelength with the tone of it, because it is satirical at times. It gets pretty serious and dramatic as well. And but I don't know. I think the kinetic energy that Park Chan-wook brings to it really keeps your attention all the way through. And I think because of the performances, particularly Hua Xuan-dae here, who plays the captain slash the sympathizer, I guess, who's the lead here. I mean, you're gonna get hooked just to see him go through his, day as a spy, trying to balance his two sides, working for the CIA and South Vietnam while secretly fighting for the North. And the show eventually goes to America too, so we get to see, his struggles with assimilating into American life as well. But yeah, I'd say sit back, enjoy, give the first few episodes a try, and let me know if you don't like what you see, because I suspect you will. But let's scroll through these first few episodes and see what I can ramble about here. So this first episode kind of got me a little bit disoriented, but I quickly got on board because it was just so captivating to see this character pretend to be an elite secret police agent here. It's like a police procedural, but it's more badass because you're rooting for this revolutionary communist here to undermine the whole operation here. And here we go. Here's a good little transition here. Example of the beautiful filmmaking here. Look at that. That's just one example of some nice clean transitions you'd come to expect in a film from Park Chan-wook. This whole episode, it switches back and forth. We get a rewind. It just works well with the disorienting nature of being a spy and working both sides, and he's pretty competent. It's good to see a competent spy get through unscathed so far. And yeah, so we get to see the perspective of the Vietnamese here, which is nice because of course Hollywood's all focused on the American soldiers during this time in their perspective, or maybe some college students protesting on campuses. But we rarely see, particularly from something like HBO or A24, etc., who produce this American productions. We barely get to see ever the side of the Vietnamese people, what their experience was like. So it's good to see a lot of these Vietnamese actors get a chance to show that through this film, based on the book, this series, I guess, not film. This is a key scene in this episode. Basically, the captain here, he feels like he's done with the mission, right? He infiltrated the secret police, and Saigon's about to fall, and they're about to win the war. And so he wants to celebrate here, with his people. But he's being asked to monitor the general still, in America, in case he launches an anti-revolutionary response to gain control again. And it's basically asking him to perform this duty for the revolution, and he has to sacrifice his own happiness. And it's really a question of like, these revolutionary figures, like, okay, at what point do you celebrate? At what point is the war over, or are you going to dedicate yourself to the cause to the point where you sacrifice your own personal freedom, and he decides to continue. Really well done effects here. It really felt tense and dangerous. He does run back, but it's too late. Bond's wife and child, they bring him aboard, but they end up dying, of course. And this is how the episode started too. He was jailed, right? He's in a prison camp, it seems. It would appear to be a prison camp from the North, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, which is the winning side in the Vietnam War. Which is the side he was working for. He was a spy for them. So we're not quite sure even right now, like what exactly he did to get here in this jail cell. Did he betray the communists? Did he do something? Did he find something they were doing despicable enough to betray them? Or, in the fog of war, did something go wrong and they just suspected he did something wrong? We'll get a little bit more in future episodes, perhaps showing that it wasn't so rosy, the revolution, not everything went to plan, perhaps. Of course, so far, and rightly so, the show is a lot more critical of U.S. imperialism. Now in episode 2, we're going to see that he's going to be interrogated, and he's basically, the framing of the story is him confessing what he has done and writing down everything that's happened since he became a spy, I guess. Now back in America, Bond is obviously depressed. A lot more cool spycraft here. Here's the secret invisible ink he's using. It's pretty cool to send messages, and it pivots more to like the lives of these refugees from Vietnam who made it to the U.S. and how they're being treated as refugees, which is pretty shittily, of course, in these awful refugee camps infested with rats and such. Of course, the author of the book that this is based on, he grew up in a refugee camp. He had to go through that, as a child. This all feels authentic and real, and it comes from a true place. And so I guess he gets a sponsor to leave the camp, which is a professor, another character that is played by Robert Downey Jr. This one is probably my least favorite of the Downey Jr. characters. A little bit too zany, So he plays a professor who's like, appropriating Asian culture and feels like he's the authority of Asian culture as a white man, which of course he's not. So the party sequence is interesting, of course. Basically, the professor's trying to show off his knowledge of the Orient, making Sandra Oh's character and Hua Xuande's character quite uncomfortable. And he he goes off a little speech, kind of like making fun of the professor, commenting on his supposed Occidental versus Oriental side. And so this all leads to a little bit of flirting between the characters, which is good to see. Sandra Oh is just a delight to see. This little story he tells her, I don't know if it's the best thing to start off with when you're trying to flirt with somebody. Maybe you tell that story when you're already in a relationship. I don't know. But he decides to go ahead and tell this story of him when he was a kid masturbating with a squid or something. It's weird. It's weird. Apparently that was a quirky enough story to work, and they start fucking, which it's actually good to see. Like, see that type of relationship, with an older woman. You don't usually see that, and it actually makes sense for the story that Sandra Oh's character Sophia is older, because she kind of plays like almost like a bit of an apolitical character, isn't so much interested in the politics of the war, as opposed to maybe a younger character would be. Maybe a college student or someone closer to the captain's age here would probably be more antagonistic towards towards our lead here, and she has this confidence of gravitas that challenges the captain here in a different way, which is, it's fun to see. Now in episode 3, this is all about Hua's character here grappling with the idea of how do I keep my cover? Am I gonna have to kill somebody and frame them as a spy in order to save my butt and keep the suspicion off me? His comrades back in Vietnam can't give him a clear answer on whether or not it's a good idea to kill off the major or not. And major is the person he's framing here, trying to put the blame on for spying and get the paranoid general off his back. So here comes Robert Downey Jr. again, as Claude, although Claude disguised as a quote-unquote homosexual. But I was thinking at this point, is the show trying to say Claude is some sort of master of disguise, a so-called master of disguise, is actually the same character as the professor, the same character as the congressman that we see later, and that somehow he's fooling everybody, including our main character. But no, that's not really what the show is doing. It's more just to illustrate how all these white men in power in the captain's life are all the same at the end. They're just exploiting and using him to propel their selves. And so at this point, if you're not on board, then you may never be on board with the idea of him playing all these different characters. It does take me out a little bit, but I kind of look past it because of what it's trying to say, and it feels like it's making fun of these elite white men to a higher degree by making them such oddball characters. And here we see again how Sophia's character doesn't really take sides. This guy brings up how speeches of democracy and freedom sound very similar, coming from American imperialists as well as communists in Vietnam. And Sophia says a slogan is an empty suit, anyone can wear it, and it makes her a perfect match for the captain here, who is playing both sides literally. This is the type of gangster stuff the film bros are all salivating about. Here we are. This is some nice shot here. Pretty sure those are visual effects fireworks. It would be hard to coordinate those fireworks in real time as you shoot this scene. Kind of similar to maybe something you would see in The Sopranos, where the person that's gonna die, you feel a little sympathy for him because he has this aging mother. He's just trying to have the American dream. Sure, he's done some awful things as a major of the fascist regime in South Vietnam. It's nuanced, he's still a human being. He goes back and puts on this jingoistic sticker to make it seem more like a hate crime. America, love it or leave it. By the way, this earlier scene illustrates how the major was swayed by the lie of the American dream. The idea that as an immigrant you can come to America and rise to the top as long as you make money. All about that moolah. And how does he make money? He has to sell expired candy back to his homeland. Frivolous candy doesn't really have much substance to it, right? Candy kind of represents the commercialism of the Western American world. And later he shows that he hides them in supposed school supplies, under the guise of giving back to the community with actual substantial material goods that could actually provide for the future of Vietnam, the children, education, all that. Instead, it's just some cheap candy that'll provide nothing but a momentary sweet joy to some people, and he's just gonna profit from that, and that's his idea of how he can achieve the American dream. So it's just a hollow dream, and perhaps it's also an extension of his individualistic self-interest that he held onto since he was in Vietnam. And he's lured into this dream because he doesn't, like he said, he doesn't want to be a ghost between worlds. He wants to assimilate. hoping that money can get him enough privilege and worth to not be discriminated against in the U.S. And I'm sure the series is going to continue to show how this American dream is false hope and even detrimental. Yeah, so if I forward back to the interrogation here, just to show again that he has all this guilt, having to be part of these murders on both sides, I think maybe the point of this scene was just to illustrate that, like, even if you're maybe fighting for a good cause, fighting against imperialists or colonists, whether it's French or the US, you may have to sacrifice your life. You may have to sacrifice your freedom. You might end up suffering and wondering if it was all worth it. Even if you did feel like it was worth it, you may have to suffer the consequences for the benefit of others. He never got a clear message of whether or not he should have killed the major. That's one of the questions he's going to have until his very last day. And here we get the reveal, like, that yeah, the captain is a very competent spy. He had to put in a fake letter in the candy box delivery black market operation the major was doing, framing him by putting in this fake communication between him and the communist Vietnam. Even though, of course it didn't happen, but he just made it look like he was a traitorous spy. And then we end this episode and the trilogy of episodes directed by Park Chan-wook with all the Robert Downey Jr. characters at this private little club. All these well-off white men having their way with immigrants, like the captain here, or with these women here. They do as they please. And here I feel like the captain is just disgusted with this display, so he's gonna go to the corner and read the script. A script from the last Robert Downey Jr. character. This filmmaker here, he's meant to represent Hollywood and how they tell the story of the Vietnam War and always telling the story from the perspective of the American side, you could say he kind of represents a little bit like Francis Ford Coppola, who did Apocalypse Now. He's working on a Vietnam movie and he wants the captain to be an advisor. Of course, he's not going to give the captain too much power to change his vision. Here we see him make some racist comments that he doesn't feel like he has to apologize for. Even though a Hollywood director like him might be liberal, he's still in cahoots with conservative politicians and such, as part of the white men who control the narrative in this society. These characters that Robert Downey Jr. is playing are meant to represent the hegemonic power of the Western white man in all its forms, whether it's via politicians, CIA, academia, or media like Hollywood. And by having Robert Downey Jr. play all these men, it's kind of saying that they're all the same. It's all the same thing. Even though outwardly they have different appearances or perhaps values, they're all the same force, whether intentional or not, are upholding the status quo in which they hold a power at the expense of everybody else, and only use figures here like the captain for their own benefit. And whether or not that casting choice works, I guess this is up to perhaps your taste. I think it mostly works. Perhaps the creators of the show just want to illustrate the point very clearly in that way, in your face, and I can see how that tone can be even off-putting. I don't know. But I don't know. I feel like I said before, I think it does work overall because the show has a lot more to say as well, and puts Hua Xuande, his character, at the center. So the captain, of course, is gonna be haunted by the people he's killed. I guess transition to working for Hollywood now, and we'll see where that goes. Surely Hollywood in the 70s is gonna do a good job representing his struggle, right? I feel like the energy in the show, the performances, even like visual gags like this, the humor in it, like it's just so good. As an espionage tale, like it's just inherently enthralling to see this character navigate his way through this whole thing. It's just great to see a show skewer, U.S. imperialism from the perspective of the Vietnamese. Park Chan-wook, I think, is still going to be, a producer, and it's going to, and a writer, I think. But hopefully it'll maintain the quality throughout the rest of the series, which is 4 more episodes. So we're about halfway through. Total 7. I got a feeling it's gonna be great, all the way through. We'll see. I guess I'll check back on it, once the finale comes around. Okay, well, that's the Sympathizer. I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.